Namaskaram, Aruna Sairam ji.
Namaste.
It's a great privilege to talk to a Padma Shri, the Vice Chairman of the Sangeet Natak Academy, but most importantly, somebody who is standing on the highest position in the Carnatic music industry. If somebody were to write a book on Carnatic music, I'm sure they will have to write two chapters. One, the pre-Aruna Sairam period and the post-Aruna Sairam period. It's a great pleasure talking to you, ma'am.
It is my pleasure too. Ganesh Kumar ji, you are such a eminent corporate leader. You hold the respect of the entire corporate world, extremely successful in that field, and yet very significant part of your life is devoted to the Maharashtriya Abhangas and to the Maharashtra saints. This is an amazing combination. I have not seen something like this before. Many are the occasions when I have been mesmerized by your rendering of Abhangs. You are the Maharashtra Abhang Ratna and have had the privilege to perform in such haloed precincts and sacred places that other Abhanga renderings would not be possible. Other artists would not be able to reach those valued precincts. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, it's your gesture to put these words, but I think all of us are born to give something back to the society, and this you have done in good measure. But before I go on to all those musical journeys, let me start with your childhood. I have had a lot of interaction with your dear mother, Rajalakshmi Mami, who was a great singer of Meera Bhajans. And when she sang Meera Bhajans, even if you didn't understand the language or the bhava, the very fact that they were composed by Meera, who gave her entire life to Lord Krishna, and she sang them so naturally that the essence of the composition could get into you without even knowing the language. That was your mother. And your father was so active in Mumbai in terms of creating the Sabha culture. Bombay is a city where everyone is busy with commerce, but here was one gentleman who gave his time to nurture and ensure that people could listen to good quality Carnatic music, and he was very instrumental in creating a Sabha. And I have even seen you as a school-going girl when you were so intensely involved in the classical music. So let me hear from you, your childhood days, how music kind of engulfed you your entire life.
Well, I should say that there was a certain amount of discipline, in the sense every morning, by the time I was 3 or 4 years old, or 5 if I can say so, I had to do that customary Akara Sadhakam every morning. 4 o'clock I would be woken up and I have to go through the Sarali Varsai, Alankaram, Janta Varsai and all those practices every day. And only after I finish a certain stint of that practice then I would be sitting on my father's lap to have a glass of milk. So there was a discipline that was inculcated, but it was, my parents were not strict, they were not harsh. It was just enforced as a kind of a natural thing that you have to do. But sure enough, they made sure that I would do it. So that was one portion of my formal training, and my mother used to teach from morning 7 to evening 7. Different groups used to come and learn from her. So also by listening to the other students, there was a lot of osmotic learning that was going on, unconscious and subconscious learning. So this was one part. Then there were these great luminaries who came home. Now that was another dimension, because imagine you, very often I would be the one, by the time I was 7 or 8, I would run to open the door. You know how it is in Bombay apartments. Oh, please go open the door. So I opened the door. One day I opened the door, T.R. Mahalingam, the great flautist, is standing outside the door and calling me, Aruna, I have come to play with you. Can you imagine he wanting to play with me? I mean, these kind of, one day I opened the door, it is Bala Saraswati Amma, Amir Khan Saab, my Guru Srimati T. Brinda, M.S. Subbalakshmi Amma. I mean, where can I stop? I was thoroughly blessed. Sanjukta Panigrahi ji, Raghunath Panigrahi ji, Amir Khan Saab, all these musicians. And the beauty was, I don't think my parents differentiated between this music or that music. Everything was music.
So there was a universality.
Universality for that. So this was one, by looking at them, I think I was inspired. Then there was this other spiritual angle where Shukha Brahmam would come. There would be a Saptaham at home for 7 days. And I would be the one who was washing all those little silver vessels for Sukha Brahmam ji. So you see, that made sure that I was always in his proximity. Then Krishna Premi ji would come, and Kiran would come, Kevaja. These kind of great orators, speakers, they would be. So there was a spiritual growth, there was a cultural growth, there was a formal training, informal training. So many things were happening. Today I wonder how my parents even put all this together. It was a divine ordinance, I'm sure.
I can remember that it was not a very large apartment in Chaya building, but there was a room which was dedicated to that beautiful Radha Krishna.
Yes.
And the moment you entered that room, I think you just got lost in his thoughts.
Yes.
And I can recall that almost all these luminaries that you mentioned must have visited your house, not only to meet you all, but also to meet that beautiful Radha Krishna.
Absolutely.
And but tell me a little more about your father and how did he integrate himself into all these happenings in the house?
I think it was unusual and special that mother was a singer. She learned from Alatur brothers, and she was an accomplished singer. And father was a music lover. So that combination worked very well. Because though he was working in the railways, but aside from the time that he was working, his spare time would be to listen to music, to engage in musical thought. For example, I remember every time there was the national program on the radio, my father would treat it as though it's a live performance. So if suppose it starts at 9 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, on a Saturday evening, by 8:30 dinner would be over. He would tell me and my brother Raja to come and sit in the drawing room, the living room, or that little one room that we had, and the lights would be adequately dimmed, and the stage would be set to listen to that national
as
program.
If they were performing live for you.
Absolutely. I remember listening to Namagiri Pete Krishnan, Rajaratnam Pillai, all the Nadaswaram Vidwans, Madurai Somasundaram ji. All these musicians I heard through that radio concert, but it was made into a very special occasion and the respect was given to it. So I think we picked up a lot.
This was the time when there was no television. So it
No
was only
television,
audio,
no
there was no
television.
visual, but yet the music, your ears were glued to the music which was emanating from that small box.
True.
But tell me, during your schooling, Bombay is a place where there's a lot of multiculture. I'm sure you had different students in your class who hailed from different backgrounds, different languages, different communities. How did your music happen in the school classrooms? Did your colleagues tease you, or how did it happen?
Yeah, for a long time, I think I didn't want to tell them about my musical side. I always posed as though I'm like one of them, and luckily I was doing well in my studies, so I could easily keep the two compartmentalized. But there came a time when I think I went to secondary school, 5th standard and all, and then there were these cultural events. Then I couldn't contain myself. I said, I want to sing a song. And then it was out. So every time after that, when there was an occasion for me to present a song, I would sing. Of course, being Bombay, I would probably choose a Meera Bhajan. You know, my mother knew so many of them. Or something in Marathi. So I tried to integrate with them. Sometimes, very occasionally, I presented Carnatic music, but not too often.
So you were a success right then amongst your school colleagues.
Yeah, they loved it after a point.
Very
they
nice.
understood
Very
and
nice.
accepted it.
Very nice. Now let me come back to the interactions with the leading musicians who rang the bell and walked into your house. While you were engaged in the small running course, that's a part of any family. But in terms of musical journey, how each one of them influenced you? Or did anyone, why did you feel that you must get into this full-fledged? Somebody must have kindled that thought in you. How did that happen?
I think each one of them influenced little by little. For example, Bala Saraswati Amma would come after a performance at Patkar Hall. She would tell my mother, Rajamma, I want to eat hot pongal from your hands. So by the time she reached home, it would be about 11 in the night. Amir Khan Sahab would say, Are, aap ja rahe ho, to main bhi aa raha hu. So he would come in his car. And as the pongal is cooking and all the smell of the ginger and the pepper is wafting, instead of just waiting, Balamma would embark on an abhinaya. And Amir Khan Sahab would embark on a khayal to suit what she's doing.
And it just happened.
It would just happen.
Okay.
So many of these things just happened. No musician who came just ate, chatted and went away. They left some of their music behind. They would immediately burst into a song, or they were so generous with their music, and they never behaved like, I cannot sing because I am a prima donna. That attitude was never there. They shared whatever they knew, they sang. If my parents would say, can we just call our neighbor or something? Yeah, call, no problem. And then they would sing something very rare, which they would perhaps not do in a concert, talk about it. So little by little, I think I was being sort of dragged into that atmosphere, surely, and there was no looking back after a certain point.
In fact, I can recall in Mumbai, it was very fashionable to have the girl take to Bharatnatyam rather than singing.
Yes.
But in your case, despite interaction with many leading Bharatnatyam dancers, but yet you came to singing, and this rich repository of knowledge, the musical knowledge, possibly came to you automatically without having to go to the sabhas to see the events. And the artists came to your house and they shared their knowledge with you on a platter. You must be one of those extremely lucky child in your family.
I think so. I am singularly blessed. There's no question.
Can you tell a little more about these interactions with some of them at least, especially your guru, Vrindamma?
Sure.
How did that happen?
Sure. Talking about dance, I must tell you that I did at one point was simultaneously learning Carnatic singing, Bharatanatyam with Mahalingam Pillai, and violin playing with Savitri Satyamurthy ji.
Really?
So I was doing all three. But at some point, when I was about 11 or 12, I said, no, I think my thing is to sing. I'm not going to do the other two. So I put my foot down. I told my parents, no more of the dance and no more of the other thing. So I think there I was guided by some intuition that prompted me.
Incidentally, Savitri Satyamurthy is the guru of Unni Krishnan also.
Yes, absolutely. She used to live in the same building as we did.
That's right.
On the ground floor.
Right.
And I learnt violin with her for many years. Vrindamma was a very special person. For one, I was all of 10 and she was already past 60. So there was a huge age gap. The fact that she chose to come and stay with us, I think was a benediction, because she was such a private person. Even in Chennai, it was difficult to have access to her on a personal basis. Very exclusive and reclusive kind of an artist. But she would come year after year and spend 2 or 3 months with us. I think we were blessed. The first year, she was teaching senior artists, and I was an onlooker. Then slowly, the second year, the third year, she said, okay, you can come, you can sit, now you can sing a little. So it was a very gradual approval that I had from her that I can sing. She would, if she wanted to teach me a kriti, she would sing a particular sangati or a variation 5, 10, 15, 20 times over and over again till it got etched in my mind.
Super.
But she would never tolerate a single paper or a pen for notation.
Oh, really?
I remember in the class, one senior singer brought a notebook and a pen and came into the class, and Vrindamma just wouldn't start the class. She just kept looking at that paper, and after some time she said, do you really need that? So this student just smiled and she said, please put that away, open your ears, open your mind, and get the music right there. So, but it was hard work, because she would have to teach that many more times
True.
to etch it vocally and orally in your mind.
Absolutely.
But that's how she taught. So every piece of music that she taught is sort of embedded, encrypted more or
Once
so,
for
more
all.
or less, once and for all. And also I think that ability now, if I listen to a piece of music, thanks to my guru, hear it once and I'm able to reproduce it. That ability, I think she gave it to me by training me like that. And the next day, after you finish learning the piece, she would say, now notate it from your memory and show it to me. So this was like complete ingestion of the information and bringing it out in the form of a notation from your mind. I think that was, their teaching methods were amazing.
I must clarify here that unlike Hindustani music where the words are very limited, especially in Khayal Sangeet, a few words and the entire composition just goes with those words. And there is more manodharma at play rather than a structured form of singing notations.
Yes.
Whereas in Carnatic music, number one, there is a composition which is quite heavy and in a language which is quite difficult to render.
Yes.
And in addition, you have a difficult structure of music.
Yes.
And it's amazing that you say that all this had to be done without paper, pencil or documenting it anywhere. It just had to get into your mind.
Absolutely.
That is really amazing.
Absolutely.
And maybe that kind of Gurukula Vasam, if I may use that phrase, is something that is very unique and rare. And this knowledge that she had, possibly the whole thing was passed on to you without even the guru realizing it, or for that matter the student realizing it, but it just happened as a normal process.
Absolutely.
Brinda Amma, you consider her as your guru.
She is.
But your mother was there in the initial formative time, and then it was Brinda Amma who fine-tuned all the thing that you had. Did you have any other sessions with any other guru who influenced your renderings?
Plenty. There was a period up till the time, till I was 10, it was my mother. From the age of 10 till about 22, 23, even 25, I think, Brindama. Then she was not able to travel anymore, and I was into family life. I was having children and raising a family, and she was too old. But my musical journey continued, and I had some very great masters mentoring me after that. One of them was a disciple of Tiger Varadacharya, Shri A.S. Mani. So that Tiger Bani of certain things, especially the Kalpana Swara. I remember that the ideal for the tiger, you know why he was called tiger was because he had a certain posture which he would assume when he sang, which looked like the claws of a tiger, which is why he was called tiger. But he was surely a titan, musical titan. And I believe when he sang this Swara Kalpana, Kalpana means extempore Swara singing, it seems the Swaras would come wave after wave in an oceanic, torrential form. And this little thing was eluding me for a long time, until my teacher, Mr. A.S. Mani, taught me the trick of how to get into that mindset. I think that's a great thing that it took him a long time to get me to understand it. But surely, today if people say that I can sing swaras, Vandadavarama, that is without repeating, sing swaras all the time, without mathematical calculations, premeditated patterns, but in a genuinely creative way, it is his blessing.
So this cascading system of swaras falling one after the other.
Yes.
But I must tell you that you are very lucky to have a confluence of three styles. Alattur Bani through your mother, Brinda Amma with her own style, and then Tiger Varadacharya's Swara Kalpana through
this,
Shri
and
Mani
there are
sir,
many other masters also.
Many other masters.
I don't know if this interview allows for that, but there were others.
So there was a confluence of different aspects of rendering Carnatic music, and all of them got into you and made you a successful singer that you are today.
True.
Now let me come to the next aspect of your life, and this is a question which is in many people's mind, and I don't know whether you have answered it adequately. What made you shift out of Mumbai to Chennai?
I shifted from Mumbai to Chennai rather late. If you remember, up until 2002, I was still living in Bombay. Yes, it is true that from the 1990s to 2002, I was renting an apartment in Chennai and I was commuting up and down in order to build up the momentum of my presence in Chennai. And finally, things came to a pass in 2002 when my elder daughter got married. She finished studying and she left home. The younger daughter got a scholarship. She also left home to study. The main reason to stay in Bombay was not to disturb the children.
Okay.
We didn't want to do
So
that.
it was the family needs which made you...
What I felt, I didn't want to put myself before the children.
Right. As a mother.
Yeah, because you know how Bombay is, you know, it's a meritorious, it was, I think it still is, but I'm out of touch. But, you know, if you get your marks, you get your seat, you are able to pursue the study that you want to do. It's a more cosmopolitan kind of lifestyle, and I didn't want to shift in between just because I was having ambitions to sort of come and make it here. So I said, let's wait. So after they left home, in fact, it was my elder daughter and the younger daughter together, they prodded me. They said, now you can't stay in Bombay, you have to move. And that's when the whole family, we all moved in 2002 and came to
So it was
Chennai.
your daughters who realized that this was a
Absolutely.
mother's dream and we must not stand in the way
Yes,
and
I'm
make you
grateful to them.
conquer the world that you have dreamt of.
Absolutely. I'm grateful to both of them because to have children that love what you do and to respect what you do and care for it, I think that's a very big blessing.
And how does Sairam look at all this? And he's quite happy being with you in Chennai, and I'm sure he enjoys even attending your concert, listening to it, and become a small critic when you reach home and tell you what happened well and what could be better. Could you tell us something about that?
Well, again, I think I have been singularly fortunate, and this might sound like a cliche, but yes, Sai is certainly one of the reasons why I am able to do my music, because if you have a spouse that is unrestful or not appreciative or not respectful of what you're doing, somewhere it tells on you and you can't really give off your best. But he so unconditionally accepts what I do, and he chose, in 2002 he said, yeah, I'll give up everything, I'll come with you. He gave up his job, he resigned and he came with me to Chennai. That was a big step. My in-laws also said, oh, you are going, we'll come, because Sai is the only son.
Right.
So the family just supported me unconditionally. Even today, there's not a single concert of mine that if Sai can help it, that he will not attend.
Oh.
He will always be seated in the front row, and that's what gives me my strength. He has learned to love Chennai. We both do miss Bombay. There's no question. Once a Bombayite, you're always a Bombayite. But we keep going there. We meet friends. We meet you. We meet so many other people, and we keep in touch.
Would it be right to say behind every successful woman there is a man as well?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. That's 100% true in my case.
Well, if you may permit, I would now shift to the concerts in Chennai. The normal understanding of Carnatic music, rightly or wrongly, is that it is Kanta Sangeet. That is, the singing emanates from your Kanta. But there are other kinds of music which emanates from Nabhi, connects through your heart, and then flows out through your Kanta, and that is considered to be more aggressive, or it is considered to be more powerful. But generally, by and large, Carnatic music is meant to be soft. But you brought in this change because your voice was not very much like the normal lady singers in the Carnatic arena. You had a slightly different voice, but you became a roaring success with your voice, with your different style of presentation. And I must also tell you that you brought in an aspect of a multilingual approach. You would normally see a Carnatic music handling languages like Sanskrit, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, but you made it much wider. You brought in other languages as well. Would you consider these as some of the reasons why your music is so popular today in Chennai?
Truly, if I look back and try to think about what is it that blessed me with so much success, I, being myself and being too subjective in the subject itself, I am not able to pinpoint. It's difficult for me. But When I came to Chennai in 2002, or even earlier when I was commuting, the only aim I had was people then would be a few hundreds in my concert, not too much more. I said, can this 200 become a 300? Can the 300 become a 400? How can I reach out to an audience without compromising
on the core
my
values.
core value?
Yeah.
That was my search. So I never looked beyond doing well in the next concert. I was not able to look, am I doing something that is going to be proved a success or not? So that helped actually, because innocence is bliss, ignorance is bliss. You just keep doing your thing and you keep traveling. But looking back, I think, yes, as far as Kantha Sangeetam and Nabhi Sangeetam is concerned, I tried to sing in a different way in order to fit in, I must confess.
Yes.
But I couldn't. Because my voice, the way it is, my demeanor, the way it is, the way I produce my sound, it is coming from here. It is a Gambhira.
It's so powerful.
Shariram.
It kind of engulfs the entire Rasika.
Yeah.
You know, his mind just cannot go anywhere. It has to fix itself to your singing.
Yeah.
And I must tell you this, that as a singer, this is a rare quality that you have. I've heard hundreds and thousands of singers. But you have an ability to kind of time down, kind of arrest him from the thoughts going anywhere else, and that is a rare quality. But I'm happy to know that it was a conscious decision to increase the number of Rasikas.
Yes.
And now today you have a cross section of Rasikas.
Yes.
And that brings me to some renderings which, if I may borrow the phrases used by Sri Seshasai, schoolish renderings like Madumai Kumkanna, Vishamakara Kannan, they relate to an ordinary child playing on the ground, and that would mean that you connect from 8 to 80. So automatically within a span of 2 hours. And how are you able to do that? Because there is a very strong, very deep Sangeetam. And before the concert ends, there is a Sangeetam which relates to the masses, which relates to a child. But strangely enough, it is a conservative who seem to be appreciating this lighter version as well. That's an absolute magic coming from Carnatic fraternity. You must reveal the secret. How?
I think it was the multifaceted upbringing. Because on the one hand, there were these very highly artistic artists that I was seeing. And my training was of a very high order, in the classical sense I mean. But at the same time, there was this other aspect of my mother's life, which we should touch upon. She was a devout bhakta of Krishna.
Okay.
To the extent that she would be sitting by herself and tears would be pouring down her eyes. You know, she used to get ecstatic. And
the highest level of bhakti.
Bhakti.
Yeah.
And Nama Sankirtanam was a way of life in the house. So there were these great Nama Sankirtanam Bhagavatars used to come home.
I remember I sang Adada Shankaru in your house.
Absolutely.
And you were just, in Tamil, Pavada Chattapottundu,
Yes.
Okandrikra Pondu.
Exactly.
I can still recall,
Yes.
she was amazing.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
So Mohan Paiji
Yeah.
used to come home and he would sing with his group, Giri Bhagavatar, Nama Sankirtanam, Bombay, whoever were then.
Pudukota Gopalakrishna
Gopalakrishna Bhagavatar. So you see, there was a certain immediacy in the experience of the Nama Sankirtanam music. And as I was coming into my own as an artist, I said, why can't that sense of immediacy be brought into a Carnatic concert? Why does it have to be disjointed? Why does the artist have to sit on a high pedestal and give out something? I'm singing this, you listen to this. No. I wanted to meet the audience at their level too. So I would do a Ragam Thanam Pallavi, very difficult one, but then I would say, no, this is not just the end of it. I still have something for you, where you and I can talk, we can converse. We can look at eye into eye and enjoy something frivolous but yet beautiful.
Absolutely.
That was the idea.
Superb. I recall once I attended a session of yours in Music Academy, and you started with Tode Mangalam, which was very rare, happening in Music Academy. And I was really congratulating you, though not directly, but to others, that here is one artist who's willing to experiment, who's willing to take to new formats, who's willing to take on a challenge, yet succeed at the end of the day. And that is something extremely difficult. But in the same breath, let me also ask you, you have paired with so many international artists. So was it a widening of your canvas? Did it take you much further in music, your experiences?
It did, because once I started traveling to countries abroad, I remember the very first visit I ever traveled out of the country was to Germany.
Oh.
And I spent 3 months there as a visiting faculty in a German conservatoire of music.
Okay.
Now that was an eye-opening experience. I, for the first time, interacted with the German musicians, and if not anything else, it brought back to me the strength of my upbringing.
Okay.
I began to value many-fold more times the upbringing that I had. What has been given to me, I appreciated it much more, and I said, no, I have to do something with this. Otherwise, I'm not worthy of my salt. Because by the time my mother had passed on,
Oh, really?
she had an early passing
Yes,
on.
yes.
And that void really set me on a different path, because that the longing for my mother and why she had to die so early in life set me thinking as to what am I doing with my life.
True.
And those things
Something that you have inherited.
Yes.
Are you doing justice with
Am
that?
I doing justice to it? That bothered me. So I started interacting with artists, German artists, French artists. I went to France. I started performing there. Artists from there would come and listen to me.
Oh.
Then they said, why don't we perform together? So all this happened naturally, one after the other, as I kept traveling.
Okay.
And then we started doing performance. Some of the really memorable series of performances I've done is one series with Dominic Vela, who sings medieval chant, liturgical chant, and Gregorian chant. All of it is medieval European music.
Right.
I've collaborated with Christian Bollmann of Germany to do neoclassical. He does neoclassical. I always, of course, do what I always do. Then I collaborated with flamenco artists.
But tell me, I read somewhere that once you rendered to a very large audience where not one of them knew anything about Carnatic music, but there was a standing ovation as you finished the concert.
Absolutely.
Tell us more about that.
Well, this was at the festival of Ojai. There is a place called Ojai, O-J-A-I in California, and there they run a festival every year, and this is the 70th year of their running the festival.
So coinciding with our independence.
Absolutely. And for the very first time, they invited a Carnatic vocalist to. They had never heard Carnatic vocal music or Carnatic music for that matter in that venue.
Really?
They probably have heard the tabla or some instrumental music in collaboration with some other artists. And I was asked to do a hardcore Carnatic,
A standalone.
standalone Carnatic, not fusion. And I was very happy about that. And I thought I agonized for many nights thinking and dreaming about what
are
I
you
will
going to
do.
do?
How will I reach out to this first time audience of Carnatic music? But once when I finished, and that's why I was even telling you in the previous interview with Mr. Seshasai when we were speaking, that music truly has no language barriers, because I did a typical
I would say it's a
Carnatic
language of hearts.
concert. Exactly.
The melody just binds people.
Absolutely.
You don't really need words to connect with the audience. Your sheer ability to render the melody reaches the audience.
Yes.
So it's a language of hearts.
Absolutely. So there were these 5 to 10,000 people. I don't know how many. They were spread out all over the place, and they spontaneously stood up and they applauded, and it was unbelievable.
Must have been a wonderful experience.
Beautiful.
No wonder you were taken as the vice chairman of the Sangeet Natak Academy. It's very difficult to find people. You could have excellent musicians with a great talent, but here you are a musician par excellence, yet traveled extensively, connected with different forms of music, and this country has a very rich tradition over centuries. And I believe that we have a true representative in the Sangeet Natak Academy now, and Aruna Sairam ji as the vice chairman of the Sangeet Natak Academy is a very appropriate thing to happen. This brings me to the next aspect of music. One is the artist who renders. Second is the listeners, the rasikas who listen to this beautiful music. Third is the sabhas who organize these events. But there was one area which was not very efficiently handled, and that was the media. And that brings me to the subject of the INSYNC television channel, which we represent, with its dream to take Indian classical music to a much wider audience who may not have an opportunity to come and listen to live music because distances are there, and also they may not know about this music. But a television channel enables somebody who does not know the sea of Carnatic music to listen to a good Carnatic concert.
Sure.
And this is made possible by a television channel. And what is your opinion about this initiative?
I think this is a phenomenal thing, because to have even the concept of a television channel exclusively devoted to indigenous music, be it classical, Hindustani, Carnatic or Sufi music or ghazals, without very commercial music coming in, to even think of it is difficult, and now it has been realized. That is an amazing, amazing feat. I have to congratulate you and the channel on that happening. And this virtually brings into the homes of people who cannot come or who do not know that there is something so beautiful existing. It comes into their virtual homes and tells them, come on, listen to this. This is your heritage, this is your legacy, this is what you can appreciate. I think this, you can't get better than that. Literally sort of knocking on their doorstep and taking the music to them. It's amazing.
Well, there are debates whether the classical music needs to become massical music. And there are concerns expressed by many well-meaning people whether it is necessary to take the classical music or to demystify classical music, or whether there is a need to take it to a wider section, because classical music is meant for classical audience. But my own perspective is, unless you tell the masses as to what is good music, or take the responsibility or to don the mantle of telling the masses as to what is good music that they must listen to, after a few years the opportunity might get lost. And you would find the next generation bereft of any interest in classical music. And then there is no point in complaining that somewhere down the line we missed out an opportunity. And hence the channel today very strongly believes that while we have to maintain the core values of classical music, while we have to maintain the core values of any form of music, but there is a need to take this music to an audience. Now, the children, unless you take this music to their houses, gone are the days when the children would accompany their parents to the sabhas to listen to music, because today, whether we like it or not, most of the sabhas or most of the live events, you find people who are 50 plus.
Yes.
There is hardly any youngsters visiting these live events of classical music, but you have a large number visiting fusion music or other forms of music, which may not be necessarily Indian.
Yes.
So I thought there was a need to protect our own heritage and culture, and let the children listen to this music and then form an opinion, and let them subsequently listen to whichever music that they like.
True.
But this opportunity of providing a platform for them to listen to good music pardon me, is necessary.
Sure.
What is your views? Do you think that classical music should be taken to the households and the young people, the young minds should listen to this music?
Absolutely. See, it's like this, if I don't know a certain thing exists, how can it even appear in the radar of my thoughts?
Oh.
It cannot.
True.
So, if many people are bereft of the knowledge that there is a music like this that exists.
Right.
Because I've had people earlier on when I used to travel, I used to be carrying a tambura. A real tambura, I used to be carrying all the way to Europe whenever I traveled.
That is the time when you didn't have electronic tamburas which you can just pack it in the baggage.
But I always saw somebody would ask me, "Ye kya hai?" If the odd Indian couple that I met on the train, let's say from Paris to Dijon or something, that they would say, "Ye kya hai? Ye sitar hai kya?" Or if a North Indian somebody met me, sitar. So they don't even know the difference between a sitar and a tambura. They don't know what do I do with this tambura. They don't know. Ye tanpura hai. Kiske liye vaparte hain? They don't know. So it's our duty to give the choices. then to make the choice is their duty.
Absolutely.
And their right also. That they will do. But it's our duty to tell them there is something beautiful that exists. And that INSYNC is doing, and that's commendable.
It's very nice to hear this from you, but it encourages the initiative that we have taken. There is also a need, according to me, to connect wherever it is possible the two most important streams of Indian classical music, which is Hindustani and Carnatic. And I can recall that you were a participant in the Uttar Dakshin initiative, which was taken by the Music Forum many years. And the Hindustani musicians maybe are unable to appreciate the essence of Carnatic music because their music is different. So I have always been telling them that you can't measure something with your scale where the scale is different. But I think this initiative of putting them together, the melody, the percussion and the vocal, and you have both the streams on either side, and try and analyze the good parts of their own renderings. What is your opinion? You think this initiative is also necessary to bridge the gap?
Absolutely. It's very, very necessary because again, during several interactions, I found that, you know, the gamaka, for example, that the oscillations.
The oscillation.
How we make the oscillations in the Carnatic style is different from the way the Hindustani style oscillates the note. It is just a stylistic difference. Not that one is good and the other is bad, or one is beautiful and the other is not. So unless the Hindustani musicians know that this is the way the gamaka moves in an andolic style, you know, andolan, as they say, swinging on either side of the main position of the note. It is very common in the Carnatic style, and unless your ears attune to that frequency, then you can't appreciate it. True. So I'm so happy that we have to have these conversations and sensitize our colleagues to such phenomena.
I would even go to the extent of telling that the oscillations are not just oscillations, they are measured oscillations.
Yes, sure.
If the oscillation goes for a split second more,
yes,
it changes the raga pattern.
Sure.
So Carnatic music is so well evolved,
yes,
so well created,
yes,
by the musical greats,
yes,
that each one has a shade,
yes,
and that shade has to be presented in that faithful manner.
Absolutely.
And if you take too many liberties, it loses its original color,
yes,
and it becomes something else which is not intended.
Sure.
So this aspect of Carnatic music is one that the other world has to appreciate. And the other area where I think there is a very fundamental difference is the method of imparting training. In Carnatic music, they are highly structured. Any student wanting to learn Carnatic music starts from the Sharali Varishai. They have to go through that drill before they come to Varnam or Kirtanam or what have you. So the initial phase of very structured training process, which does not depend on any gharanas or it does not depend on any geographical location, is something that's very unique to Carnatic music.
Sure.
And this is possibly one reason why you could go to US, see a mridangam player for the first time in your life, see the violin player first time ever in your life, but still when you're seated on the platform, you render music which is absolutely in unison and there is a team approach.
Yes.
So this unique feature of Carnatic music, I would like you to say something about that.
Yeah, because there is a reference point.
Okay.
And that reference point is almost universal in the world of Carnatic music.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody connects to that reference point.
Okay.
It's like a pole star.
Okay.
So if you're talking of Pancharatana Kritis, for example, everybody knows the Pancharatana Kritis because they are sung ever so many times. Every organization has a Tyagaraja festival, will sing Pancharatana Kritis. So everyone almost has it by heart, although they may not know how to sing it.
Right.
So likewise the Varnams, likewise the basic Kritis, everybody knows it. That is why that universality approach is able to be practiced. So I think it speaks a lot about the training methods, the standards that have been set, and our forefathers who have laid out a paddhati according to which the training happens.
Very interesting, very interesting. In fact, when you mention the Pancharatna Kritis, I'm amazed that the only example in the entire world is Tyagaraja Aradhana, where all the leading musicians, whether they are vocalists or whether they are an instrumentalist, all congregate in a single location
Absolutely.
and pay homage to the great saint by singing the Pancharatnakritis.
Yes.
And it is really amazing to see about 500 artists performing performing in unison.
Yes.
And the notes that they sing are excellent, I mean, on the dot. And there is no difference between anyone. And this is a standing example in the entire world where it's so clearly notated.
Yes.
But the argument against it would be, then where is the place for Manodharma? If everything is going to go according to a structure, if everything is going to happen according to a laid down pattern, where is the place for Manodharma? This is an argument from some people. Now, as a Carnatic performer, I want you to tell the world the locations where the Manodharma takes over, the locations where the structure takes over, and there is a place for all these aspects in a rendering of 2 hours. So, would you like to say something about the formatting of Carnatic music?
See, there are two different premises how we can approach this whole subject. Is everybody who sings wants to be a solo artist and a celebrated prima donna kind of an artist? If that is the aim, then you have to follow a different path.
Right.
But if we say, no, there is this beautiful music and many kinds of people will be singing this music, one portion of those artists will excel, they will become solo artists, they will become the prima donnas, and they will be the celebrated stars of the system.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they are the only people in the system. They stand on the shoulders of all these other artists who are serving this music in different ways, in different capacities, at different levels, out of which there are the music teachers, the music group singing, the Pancharatanakriti singing, people who teach lovely little compositions to young students, so that they may be able to just go a simple thing like going to a Navaratri Kolu, singing a few songs on the Devi and coming back with a Haldi Kumkum. It is a beautiful culture which we have not yet lost.
And it's a part of the culture itself.
Yes, you have to go to San Jose to believe this.
Right.
In San Jose, California, every parent stitches new Gagara Choli for their girl children for every Navaratri.
Oh, really?
They do that and they go and sing. They find the time to do it. And they're all in high profile, you know, the best brains in the world in the software arena is sitting there. So all these parents are highly busy people, but they do that. Because we don't want to let go of that culture.
Tradition.
Now there you are not going to talk about Manodharma, Raga Lakshana or creativity. There are a few songs which everybody sings, fine. But there is a whole body of Manodharma which needs to be learnt to be able to become an artist of a performer style. That is where it differentiates. So it's like, wheat. You grind it and then you have the basic wheat lapsi, then you have the wheat flour, then you have the maida, and you have the stuff that you waste, put it for the animals. So you need everything. It forms part of that grain.
Super.
That is how we have our music.
I'm so happy that you could reveal some of these unknown areas of good music. Maybe this is also an explanation as to why you have a very knowledgeable Rasika base for the Carnatic music.
Sure.
For example, when you render a concert, even before you have started, you have just rendered the first 2-3 notes.
Yes.
But there is somebody who murmurs in the audience that this is the Kriti that she is going to sing.
Exactly.
And that level of knowledge, which the Carnatic Rasikas relish, relatively may not happen in Hindustani music where they are enjoying good music.
Sure.
Their connect is on a different level,
Yes.
a different plateau.
Yes.
Whereas in Carnatic music, essentially, especially in Chennai during the Margazhi season, I am reasonably certain that most of the Rasikas in your front would know what you're going to render just after a few 2-3 notes.
Sure.
So this level of evolution of the Rasika or Rasikatvam in Carnatic music is intended.
Absolutely.
So it is not just happening by accident. It is because these Rasikas have also gone through the same drill in terms of the Sharali Varisaya and what have you. So they are able to, and they may not become performers, but they just learn it for the fun of knowing music.
Sure.
Many people in Carnatic want to analyze their raga not because they're going to become a performer. They might become a critic, or they might just enjoy the difference between the finer, for example, the difference between Shankarabharanam and Kalyani and Yaman, they might just discuss and have some nice time discussing music. So this process of Rasikatvam is very well evolved in the south of India because people had a lot of time to listen to good music. And all this only makes the canvas of Carnatic music more richer, more colorful, more wider.
Absolutely. And, actually, I wanted to bring to your notice, which probably you know, every December season,
right,
as soon as the festival starts, December's concert series,
right,
there is a booklet that is brought out which gives all exhaustive listing of the artists, timetable wise, who is performing in which sabha. This is one thing.
What would be the number?
Some thousands of concerts.
In 1 month?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Thousands.
This is really amazing.
Yes.
And you find audience?
Everybody. There are concert hoppers who engage auto rickshaws or cars or Ola cabs, and they hop from concert to concert. First half one concert, then go to
no
the
wonder.
next sabha.
I heard recently that there is a hop of bus service.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Nalli Kuppuswamiji, he does a great service. He has published a book.
Okay.
Any kriti that any artist sings, there is a compendium where you can say, oh, it is Bale Balendu Bhushani, okay, composition by Tyagaraja, Riti Gaule Ragam, Adi Talam. You can refer. And this booklet is circulated for all the Rasikas.
Oh, really?
And they actually sit and try to find out who is the composer. So this level of interest.
So this ecosystem exists today, and it's such a beautifully evolved ecosystem.
Absolutely.
I don't think anywhere in the world there is so much of intensity of music in just a span of 1 month.
Absolutely.
And so many events. This is really amazing. I would only request all the INSYNC Rasikas and listeners to come to Chennai during this Margazhi season, which comes around the month of December, and experience the magic of classical music. And it will be a great experience to. So maybe Aruna ji, my request is next time in this December, whatever are your Margazhi concerts, do let our listeners know about the details well in advance. They all can come and enjoy your music. But I must thank you. I must take this opportunity to thank you for revealing many of the unknown areas of Carnatic music. But most importantly, on behalf of the Rasikas, we wish you a very long life, a long musical life, and we wish you all success in your endeavors, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you to INSYNC television channel for having me over.
Namaskar.